Hello everyone, it's the Twins of Destruction, and today we're going to be talking about the Assassin's Creed Odyssey DLC, Legacy of the First Blade. This will be a critical breakdown of what we think went wrong with Ubisoft's first DLC. Now, we are being critical. We are going to be breaking down certain parts of this DLC that just simply does not make sense. We hope you enjoy, and if you have anything that we missed, because we most likely missed a lot of things, please put them in the comments down below. Before you start the DLC, you get a note from some random just ability, because it just appears on your ship. And it says, "To anyone who reads this, huge forces are closing in and innocents are dying. We will pay whatever we have. Come to Potidia in Macedonia." Okay, so as far as we know, so far, this DLC is about Darius. So why we're getting a note about innocents dying could be for anyone to decide. This is the first thing you hear when you arrive at the quest marker, and it is questionable to say the least.
Are we that desperate? We're helping somebody move?
What? The guy's got a lot of stuff. Work is work. And a few extra drachmi never hurt anybody. Sometimes...
I thought we were here to help innocents, as per the note that was just given to me. Why is Barnabas pulling this whole card of, oh, we're helping somebody move? That's pretty weird, considering this story introduced you to this island because of helping innocent people. Obviously, the story moves otherwise back towards the innocent people being hurt, but the whole idea of Barnabas being there is just very odd and awkward, and you also get to see Natakas, who you'll meet later looking onwards ominously. Nice introduction to a weird character. Cassandra herself is not there to help people. She's there to move, as per Barnabas's dialogue. But which one do you want to believe? Because the story says otherwise either way. They tell you both. Let's talk about the DLC of Tyranny of King Washington for a minute. This was also released in 3 parts, but this was back in 2012-2013. When this opened up, it was in an alternate reality where Connor never joined the Assassins and his mother was never killed. Thus, his reaction was so genuine when he got to see her, as originally he watched her burn to death as he was pulled out of the wreckage. This was an interesting way to open up the DLC, because you have something that has not been done before. You have Connor as an adult meeting and talking with his mom. It actually changed the way he thought, because he thought, I can't let her die again. It was a new motive for him to protect his mother. This was a one-way road. This DLC in Legacy, on the other hand, its narrative opens up in a few different directions. It bounces around, like we had mentioned. First, it's helping civilians, then it's Barnabas with moving, and then it's back to helping civilians. It doesn't know what it wants to be. How to open up a DLC? Tyranny of King Washington. How not to open up a DLC? Legacy of the First Blade. It's one of the first major inconsistencies of this horrid DLC. As you're moving through the town, people you can hear talking about, oh, I can't believe they had to die, and other stupid things. And one of them says this.
I heard someone was lurking in the shadows. I bet that people were used to this.
It's comments like these that really confuse me, because Cassandra is anything but stealthy, and she has only been a warrior. Stealth is an option, but yet the game has writing to include all that eagle-bearing Misthios like it's a normal thing for her to be sneaking around. It's so ass-backwards because it doesn't pertain to anything in the story. It's some weird self-gratification that the writers had to put in to make sure that everybody knows, oh, it's still an Assassin's Creed game because we just say the character is a stealthy warrior just because we want to believe that they're a stealthy warrior. As Cassandra moves through the burned village, we meet Natakas. He will say his name later on. Much like the rest of the game, this DLC suffers from its awkward dialogue and bad spacing between word placements, and this cutscene is pretty much only the beginning. Natakas is a skilled warrior. As you can see, he clearly shot that man directly in the eye. Then it leads directly into meeting the big bad, I guess you can say, who are the Order of the Ancients. This, again, will be revealed later. This is also the bad spacing. They stand there.
To make it over dramatic.
And Cassandra goes, Persians? Like, what is the benefit? And then, of course, there's the whole bragging of, you can try.
It's over dramatic to be over dramatic.
I also don't understand how Natakas is surprised that you are here when he literally saw you come into port.
I'm not sure.
Natakas says that he is not sure how they know Cassandra is the Eagle Bearer. Apparently, Cassandra was the only one who could come to help, but the note went to anyone. So what are the odds that the Eagle Bearer is one of the plot holes that just happens because it's a video game? Natakas then tells her about the Order Elite, which she then goes off to find. Natakas also makes a big deal that she was the only one to show up. This will lead back into them having a relationship, which was so obvious at the start.
Possibly the most cliche dialogue one character could ever say to introduce a quote-unquote assassin. Clean kills, someone skilled, really?
Someone skilled.
So meeting Darius is just as silly as it seems in the trailer. The two of you literally crash through a stone roof. And Cassandra gets up, asks who he is, and he answers with his hidden blade. Which Cassandra seems surprised about, which is weird because Cassandra's seen a Cyclops and a Minotaur, but she's surprised about a wrist blade. I think it's just trying to show more importance on Darius as a character, which, if you've played number 2, he's already had a bunch of mysterious aspects, so why make the hidden blade the most notorious thing? What is that? Is the same thing like any other boss fight. This then leads into Natakas coming to save the day, and he interrupts screaming, "Dad, no!" And so, of course, Natakas is Darius' son. Why wouldn't Darius have a son? Well, that's actually kind of believable. It just leads into more awkward dialogue. Like, why was he so surprised? Then he just doesn't care that he's the Eagle Bearer? Or, excuse me, that Cassandra's the Eagle Bearer? Because the Eagle Bearer. Like, it's so weirdly... And then Cassandra's awkward gaze. I'm going to say it over and over. The pacing is so bad between the gestures and the dialogue. And then, of course, Natakas just willingly gives away the location of his hideout just because he believes that she's a good person. When in reality, your Cassandra could be the most evil, snarling bastard that that Greece has ever seen. But your DLC character will always be this, good-hearted, nice person because that's the way the game was made to be.
But either way, Cassandra is still a Mystios. Mystioses are bounty hunters for profit. They're not good people. Either way, good or bad, Cassandra, you're still a Mystios.
This is the first of many, like I've said before, introductions to the assassin ideals, despite the fact that they will be introduced little over 400 years later. Things like shadows and innocent lives shouldn't really be a thing to these guys.
Cassandra then proves that she is still an angsty teenager with her cringy dialogue talking about how she's moody and she wants answers.
So Natakas is the one to tell her about the hideout, and Darius all of a sudden doesn't care because it's his son. They still don't know this woman. Darius then lets Cassandra in on all the secrets, which was strange considering he was just so adamant on letting her not be there. Few of those going around is one of the many examples of how this DLC will justify the existence of the Cult of Cosmos.
Few of those going around.
So this is how they introduced Darius, the weird, mysterious leader that had a statue underneath Montergione. And this is how they treat him. This next cutscene leads into more justification for the Cult of Cosmos. There will always been people who lust for power, people who oppose them, people who look, act, and are assassins, despite Origin's retcon saying Bayek created them nearly 400 years after this date of the DLC. Despite that fact of the retcon, This cutscene is possibly one of the best things about this entire game in general. It really goes to show how they decided to create an actual cutscene, considering there are so few cutscenes in this game. It is still really weird that they're all running around stealthily, climbing rocks,
Wearing hoods.
wearing hooded masks, and the fact that Darius worked his way onto the royal guard of Xerxes himself to kill him. So, sure, Bayek created them. Yeah, sure.
This whole game is one giant excuse for Assassin's Creed Origins creating retcons to the series.
Couldn't protect you. Not from me. Not us. We
So this exchange introduces the idea of the Tainted Ones and the fact that the huntsman was hunting Cassandra, not Darius. So Darius was living in Macedonia when the huntsman decided to show up and Cassandra decided to show up all in the same day. How strange. Almost like it's a plot device. So this is the introduction to Cassandra and Natakis' relationship. It's on a hunting trip that you just walked up to and asked him to go on. It adds nothing to the story. It doesn't really add anything to their character development, considering you're talking to a wooden board. It's trying to make you feel for him, because he's a soft-spoken man, he's a hunter, he's well-kept, and he respects animals by giving back, because it's even balancing out. It doesn't really work out, because many people I've read online do not care about this character, including us. Then it talks about how Darius trains every day. Sounds like an assassin to me. Early on, this game was praised for having open relationships, meaning you can, I guess, date whoever you want, even though it's not dating. This DLC kind of flips it on its head, and it really shows with how Cassandra is just gawking over this person that she just met the day before. Now, she's gawked over other relationships, but those relationships have ended in a snap. This one lasts longer than any other one, considering it is a quote-unquote main quest, and that is part of the issue. Pay attention to the choice in my last dialogue option. This dialogue option proves that choices do not matter in games like this when both options lead to the same outcome. This is just all flirting back and forth, and it leads into Cassandra, not by the player's choice, saying this.
With all that's happened in Macedonia, I guess you can't stay here.
So this is just some more rambling, flirting, all that jazz. But the thing that really gets us is that she had a home. Might not have been a good home, but she had Marcos, who fed her and clothed her. She grew up to be strong and healthy. I have no idea what she's talking about.
And it also alludes to settling down.
I don't think it exists.
Darius was the one that mentioned the huntsman has been hunting Tainted Ones. In this conversation with Barnabas, we actually get some nice world building about whether they exist or not. The funny thing is, he's really not, and you'll just see. So, then you get his classic cliche list of things to do, and Cassandra says,
Point my spear in the right direction, and I'll make them squeal.
This is Natakis' long list of things that you have to do, and in true RPG fashion, he throws it all into your lap and does none of it himself.
I'll investigate these leads so that we can find the huntsman. Here, Natakis.
I'll see you at Porta Dea. I have to investigate something.
look, it's Chryseis' voice actress. Wow, she sounds so different.
Very awkward spacing in dialogue and animations. It's just true Assassin's Creed Odyssey fashion right here.
Please, I'm healthy. I promise.
Thank you. Those men were... Oh! You are the eagle bearer.
The magistrate's men were trying to attack this doctor you came across and killed them. This doctor is the one who is supposed to be responsible for healing the village of its sickness, and the magistrate wants her back.
The magistrate is
She
doing what
says
he
that
has
the
to
ingredients
for
were
the
stolen by a bunch of bandits, and she tasks you with stealing them back.
Especially when innocent lives are at stake.
village. Let's get back to Potivia.
It is then shown on 2 separate occasions after you find the ingredients that the soldiers were hired and that they are also Persian. This is really leading into the conspiracy that she hired them and is also adding up to her being a member of the Order of the Ancients.
Enough!
Cassandra then gets to decide who is poisoning the people of this village or not, if it's the magistrate or if it's the doctor.
You use for your medicine.
If you choose the doctor, then she obviously gets all
The ingredients you use
stuttering,
for medicine.
and she calls order guards to come and attack you.
It's not necessary, mister.
This starts to get confusing because if she went into the woods to get her ingredients, then why were these bandits, quote unquote, the ones who stole the ingredients? Was she, because in reality she was working with them, so was she planning on just going to get the ingredients from the port?
Already more than half of this
Because it was kind of like an inlet, but then why were the magistrate's men there to attack her? None of it really makes sense, and it's all just there for the plot, just to make the magistrate look evil, because he would send guards to go kill her. But in reality, it just doesn't make sense, because the line right here,
I knew my men attacked her for a reason.
this whole quest is just a bunch of weird convolutions, because none of it makes sense, and the magistrate was never evil at all, he was just a worried magistrate.
I know.
This is one of the weird scroll animations that plague the game. They never show things opening or being handed off to,
Close conspire.
except for off screen, and then they have different animations for those things. So that piece right there was just being raised and lifted. It wasn't even opened or closed. It's pretty obvious, and it's just done to save time in the editing room. So this is where the DLC attempts to get interesting, but still fails. Nadakis' contact was locked in a cage, presumably by the Order, and much like all these other people that Cassandra is coming in contact with, people were tortured, locked in cages, and just overall not treated very well, and it was all done by the Order. Now, obviously this was done to prove that they are bad people,
Wolves are
but
to blame for this carnage.
What is this? Don't come any closer.
exactly. It seems that the boy Cassandra was following is truly afraid of her, and that the huntsman kind of set this up,
All of them.
and it's proven that he did. And the reasoning behind that is just very confusing, and we'll get into that in a minute.
Run along now.
This DLC also does a weird thing where it's trying to make you feel bad because Darius is lying to you about his name. And that's a huge thing throughout because the huntsman keeps bringing up, do you even know his name?
Do you truly trust Darius? You should be careful who you're running with, Ego Bearer. Do you even know his name? His true name?
Getting into the obvious bits, why does that boy think that Cassandra is dangerous? They bring up the tree with bodies hanging, and
His faces?
the huntsman claims that Cassandra was the one behind it all. He then has a group of people cloud around her, attempting to be their family members and friends, trying to get her to attack. And I answered all the way down except for the one where you finally attack, and it turns out it was all a trick. And those people were, I guess, not family members. I don't really know. It was kind of hard to gauge, but they weren't really family members or friends, but they were still mad that they were, I guess, in their village and attacked. But this was a lesson for Cassandra to understand that she is a monster, but how does that even make sense? Because they weren't really family members, so why would she care?
The huntsman
So, of course, the huntsman disappears and tells her to go meet somewhere else.
in the forest? Malaka!
And what's Cassandra screaming without her catchphrase?
We may have been tricked, but I still don't forgive you.
But I thought it was Cassandra that got tricked. Why would they be tricked when they were the ones who were arguing that their family members were killed? Were they tricked that they weren't their family members? After a long focus on the tree, you get the greatest decision in the entire game. I am a monster, I'm not a monster. And of course, no matter what you choose, it makes no impact on the game whatsoever and will never be brought up ever again. Like I had mentioned before about all the tortured people, they try to make it look like the Huntsmen and the Order are full of bad people, but then completely flip it on its head and then make it look like Cassandra is a bad person. But then Cassandra's not a bad person. So, like, I don't understand what their goal was, because the lesson wasn't even a lesson, it was a trick. So what's the point? Let alone the fact that you can choose if you're a monster or not. So that brings up a whole nother discussion. Why would you have such a moving lesson, like Cassandra just killing people because she could? And then not only to have it be a trick, but to have her be able to say that she's not a monster. She goes out and kills people every single day, yet she has the ability to believe that that's okay. Now, in this situation, I don't understand what the lesson was, because yeah, they were attacking her and they were attacking innocents. I don't understand what the Huntsman's trying to explain, how he's doing the betterment of mankind by letting all these innocents die and villages being burned. But that's just another weird way that they're trying to tell this story.
Found you.
I'm found when I want to be.
Nataka says you found
So Darius is
Could it lead to the
Batman.
Huntsman?
The Order has
Okay.
been making plans. And do it quietly.
He has no reason to be and act like an assassin. Why does he do this? If you want to believe what Origins had brought into the lore, it was Bayek who put together all these ideas of stealth and not killing innocents and whatnot. There's issues I have with that, but the idea is that Origins brought these ideas together. Those make up a hidden one, or an assassin as we know them in like the Levanthian times. Why does Darius act like this? It doesn't make any sense.
How did it go?
It was fine.
I could hear you all the way from here.
Then why ask?
Integrity is important.
We're going to remember this quote for later, because apparently this whole DLC is about Darius lying. Yeah, that's kind of funny that he said integrity is important. This is the first time we hear the name Artabanus, which, if you know real history, is the real man who killed Xerxes.
Your mission is to find the equal bearer. But if you bring me both of them, all the better.
I'll flank them. Don't let him get away.
And here is another example of Darius being Batman.
Don't. Laka.
Because why not?
A lake.
After a battle ensues, Darius comes out of the shadows, and you question why he didn't fight with you. He says that he needs to know if you were in the Order or not. Okay, so you already spilled all your secrets about who you were and who you killed and why you're doing this, where your hideout is, and everything. And you still wanted to know if she was in the Order or not? And he also says that you were never in any real danger. Like he was supposed to swoop in and save the day.
One, the huntsman is supposed to be waiting in the forest. Two, he's surrounded by animals. And three, he's by a lake.
So I get Natakas and Darius have been in the area for a while now, but for him to just know exactly where Cassandra is talking about is just really feeding into the plot. And of course, he can't leave because Darius needs to see the death of the huntsman, so you need to go fight him alone. This should be interesting.
Wonder what the Order has planned for me this time. Hopefully fewer death trees.
This line right here proves that she learned absolutely nothing about that quote-unquote death tree. She thinks it's a joke by saying, oh, I hope there's no more. So no matter what you chose, she always says this. So what's the point of learning a lesson, oh, I'm not a monster, or I am a monster, and then she makes a joke about it? Like, this whole narrative just isn't straightforward with anything. It's so fluid back and forth, it doesn't know what it wants to be.
And she arrives.
The huntsman.
I mean, isn't that why you're here in the forest? The note said to meet him there. You told Natakas you were going to meet him there, yet it's still so dramatic. It's like this game is just feeding itself into drama.
I'm more than a hero, huntsman.
And of course you're more than a hero, considering you're a bloodthirsty savage that only cares about herself and her own family and would do anything to stop anyone in their way. Sure, that makes a hero. So according to this DLC and the episodes that come after it, the Tainted Ones are more powerful. He says that they can burn the world, so they must stop them first. So that's why he hunts these Tainted Ones.
You think you're unique? A god?
So there are more Tainted Ones in the world. Tainted Ones are obviously the Isu human hybrids, or people with Isu DNA. For some reason, they're more dangerous, despite the fact that it's Cassandra's spear that gives her the power, not her blood. It's never said it was her blood, as far as I'm aware. It's more like it's a plot point just for this DLC to make her seem dangerous, when in fact it's a piece of Eden that gives her all of her power.
I've decided I'm a threat to you and your order.
It's so obvious that Cassandra only does things in this game for her personal benefit. When she gets involved, it's because it's personal. Every single time. She doesn't do things out of the goodness of her own heart. She doesn't even do anything for anyone else unless it really has her own personal gain in it. Sure, you can roleplay specific ways, but you can also roleplay as an asshole. And to be honest, most of her dialogue is catered towards being an asshole and self-centered, hence the entire family storyline. The huntsman then goes on to say, some battles are best fought from the dark, and that she disrupts the natural order. So throughout the DLC, the Order also has this whole spiel of saying that they are restoring order and that Cassandra is a nature of impurity. And they also have many allusions to things from the actual Assassin's Creed, like, we work in the dark to serve the light. What is all this, some battles are best fought from the dark? Why would they say that when that's the mantra of the Assassins? It doesn't really make any sense. And, oh, I've seen the argument that, oh, many ideas were said all throughout. Well, that doesn't make sense because that's an idea brought by a specific group of people. The Templars have a completely different ideology, and the Order of the Ancients is what the Templars turns into. So what does that say about their lore department? I know, well, actually, they don't have one. So, what does that say about Ubisoft as a whole? If they can't even keep straight their own lore and their own reasoning for dialogue.
Where did he go? I must track him down.
After Cassandra gets through her toddler fit, the huntsman actually says something that also is pulled straight from another game. So he argues that the world is safer without the Tainted Ones. In Unity, Pierre Bellic said something very, very similar.
I've seen Templars put entire villages to the sword just for the chance of killing one assassin.
They think that the assassins will cause more damage, so they burn entire villages. That is the exact equivalent of killing hundreds of people to save thousands. They see the Tainted Ones as a threat. Why does this ideology match up so perfectly? I get it. There were precursors to the Templars and precursors to the Assassins, but when you're pulling ideologies exactly from other games, it's almost like you're not even writing your own game. You're literally just saying, well, that sounds cool. Let me just throw it in. Oh, look, it's the exact hole in the wall Natakas told me about.
Looks like the huntsman might have slipped through here.
Just when you thought it couldn't get more dramatic.
It's over, huntsman.
I'm not talking about Cassandra's dialogue. I'm talking about the assassins coming to save the day. And in the shadows, secretly killing the only guards that the huntsman had. Again, your ideology won't be created. So why do they do exactly what they do?
Finally! What have you been doing?
Approaching stealthily. Wouldn't want to alert the target.
Why was that said with a tone of joking? Like, none of this is supposed to be funny.
Artabanus, the betrayer himself.
So you are Artabanus.
After being said multiple times and implied, you just understand that now. So then it's revealed what Darius exactly lied
After all
about.
you've done to this family,
Literally,
how does it feel
he
to
lied
live
that his
what you
name was Artabanus and not Darius.
Artabanus tells it.
And the fact that he was protecting his family.
Started this.
Well, that's kinda half true,
What is he
because
talking about?
the huntsman tries to pull off this whole, oh, we were just trying to save everybody, peace for all, blah blah blah, and your buddy over here ruined it all by sticking his nose into everything and killing a tyrant because he was not a good leader and he was destroying all these weaker civilizations around him and taking over the world and doing things that people don't want to happen. That was pure sarcasm, that last part, because I don't get it. How is killing a tyrant a bad thing
Yes, you have some
when the
explaining
tyrant
to do.
is doing way worse
You're hiding
than
something.
anyone could imagine?
Speak.
It doesn't make sense that it's such a big twist that, ooh, he killed a tyrant. That's apparently a bad... How is it a twist? I don't follow.
Their future.
And then he starts to say that, oh, you ruined your family because you went against the order, you endangered them. Well, yeah, that was known by
That promise.
Natakas and Darius for years now, and Natakas acts surprised. Why?
It's time I told you the truth.
And so then he goes on this whole truth about what happened in Persia. So this is a prelude to the assassination of King Xerxes, and they kind of want to show off that Amorgus and Darius are best friends, so they have this whole, yeah, go gut 'em kind of camaraderie, but they laugh at separate times, and their gestures don't match. It's like they're talking, someone is standing to the left of them, and they're talking instead of being in front of them. So they also do the whole, and I'll be there to stop them, which plays again into the rest of the DLC, because there will always be tyrants, and I will always be there to stop them. Again, justifying the existence of multiple cults, multiple orders. His son was the one that was in the Blind King intro, was the pre-order bonus.
The new king needs
So,
time.
for absolutely no reason, Amorgus decides to turn to the Order because the plot told him so. This entire time, he's wanted nothing but a free and prosperous Persia away from a tyrant. When Darius tells him that Artaxerxes will be puppeted and he should be taken out,
resources we need to protect.
Amorgus argues against it because
Xerxes
the
dies,
plot.
as does anyone
So that's why they're villains, because he didn't want to kill a future tyrant because the Order would obviously make a puppet out of them. So he has this simple set of robes, but if you can't tell, his hood is the exact same. And his robes are actually a lot similar, near the bottom and the waist. Clearly he still has his hidden blade, the wrist blade, which, like I said earlier, should be under his wrist, because under the wrist was used for stealth. Over the wrist, according to the Origins art book, was used for combat.
As I suspected.
Look at his hood, it has the same thread that's separated.
They got to you.
So Amorgus cuts him off from assassinating Artaxerxes, and they fight. Not a bad fight. It's actually kind of entertaining. Until Amorgus does something so stupid, and it actually kind of ruins all motivation for his character, because it becomes a thing that he uses as a grounding point, like, oh, this is why you're the worst. That.
This king hasn't done anything.
So from here on out, he'll start to clench his fist and use that as a standing point of, wow, Darius is an asshole. And it's really weird because it's like, you grabbed a knife.
Traitor.
Why would you grab a knife?
Amorgus joined the Order of the Ancients. From that day, he's led
Then
the
Darius
Huntsmen
says
to
that from
destroy
that day
us
he's
and
led
the Tainted
the
Ones.
Huntsmen to destroy us and the Tainted Ones. The Huntsman was never here for Darius. We said that already. He was here for the Tainted Ones. And when Darius turned against the Order, that had nothing to do with the Tainted Ones. The Tainted Ones are a plot point to get Cassandra involved.
Did you ever stop to think
I don't understand. And then Nathakis is freaking out about his brothers and sisters. He knew the Order went after them. None of this information is new to him. I don't understand, just because they didn't know that he was going to kill Artaxerxes. All this plot was for nothing. It's all stuff you knew. As if discovering Darius and Nathakis wasn't a beacon already. The death of Paktias apparently is the key to end all keys.
I'll pack the hideout.
Go.
And so he still respects his enemy. So, after seeing two children in the middle of absolute nowhere, Cassandra confides into Darius that she always wished to have a simple life and teach her son how to fish. And, like, she gets all sappy about it, when in reality, the main game never alluded to any of this.
Fight for the great.
The main game was about getting her family back together, her immediate family,
But it's always
which is her brother, her mother, her father. Nothing to do with a baby or a husband. Like, you can have relationships, but they're one-offs, they're hookups. So to say that Cassandra always wanted a simple life is just wrong. It's wrong in the sense of the game, the lore from the actual game. Like, this just doesn't make sense. Here's her getting all sappy again. They ask each other if they're going to see each other ever again. When you say no, it means yes. And yes means yes. This is another situation where the dialogue does not matter. What's the point if it will be yes regardless?
Paktias is dead, but the Order lives on, and with Amorgus at their head.
The Order lives on. Well, yeah, you already kind of said that before. So, how else is there going to be a part 2 if there aren't more branches? Much like there were cult branches. Of course there are Order branches. Why wouldn't there be?
Or us.
There are only a few ancient members that actually matter in terms of the campaign. The other ones are actually found and fought outside of it, which is a cheap way to expand the life of this DLC. Given that they have like a 2-month gap between each release, I'm guessing they were desperate, oh so desperate, to along the life of each one. But one of the cultists excuse me, they're so alike, how can I tell the difference? Ancient members actually drops a very important note, and actually we'll be bringing it up later in the other reviews because it's that important. This is what it reads. The order is officially not in Macedonia and cannot be seen here. My orders on this are very clear. It is of the utmost importance that nobody knows who we are and what we are doing. The cult of Cosmos in particular cannot learn of our presence. To this end, I need you to keep particular watch for cult movements. If you discover any sign or rumor of them, report to me immediately. Under no circumstance are you to speak to anyone about this. I am content that I can trust your abilities in this area. At the time of the release of this DLC, the Cult of Cosmos seemed to have not been aware of the Order's presence as per this note. But vice versa, the Order, it was assumed, did not know of the Cult of Cosmos. This was very confusing and will be explained in further DLCs, but I felt like it was shoehorned in just to add a little bit of something, just to get people pleased that there was something. Overall, I've had a couple issues with this DLC. It was by no means fun. I thought it was pretty much a waste of time, and a lot of it was a waste of time as this was not the most important story. It was obviously leading up into something, and doing so was just not very good. Darius was too cliche. Origins established the origin of the Brotherhood, so why does Darius act like a member of that Brotherhood? When does this DLC even take place? One of the tags when you start up the DLC said something about while she's trying to find her family, Cassandra finds another man trying to do the same, or something along those lines. So I'm assuming it happens right around when you get the quest, which is around the Noxos quest line. So why are these people so important? Why does she drop everything, stop fighting the cult, to go fight this Order of the Ancients when literally her mother's life is at stake? The Order are just like the cult, and it doesn't make them unique. They also get uncovered and wear masks. Most also don't matter to the story. It's like nothing matters. It's just, you're doing it just because. No, like, they don't unmask during the main campaign. You have to do it on your own. Like, who cares? The voice acting is mediocre, but kind of basic compared to the rest of the game, as it's expected. It's just kind of weird that even in a DLC, they still couldn't get it. Natakas is just not convincing. They tried to make him this young, dashing, handsome man, but it just really was not working. The villains are mustache twirly, and it's really bad. They're so predictable, and it's like, I'm bad, but I'm going to convince you that you're bad to justify my actions. But in the end, nope, they're bad. You're perfect. Out of all the love interests, I don't know how Cassandra falls for Natakas. It really doesn't make any sense, because there are some love interests that actually had genuine chemistry, but I'm not a writer. What do I know? Like I mentioned, overall, this DLC was pretty much a waste of time. If any of you watching this have not gotten it, I would get it only for the fact that the Season Pass comes with Assassin's Creed 3 and Liberation Remastered. The original DLC is $25. The Season Pass is less than that, and the Season Pass comes with actual genuine content. It doesn't matter if you don't play the DLC or not. Screw the DLC. It's a waste of time. I'm going to keep making these critiques, and if you want to watch them, because I encourage you to watch them, because this mediocrity is not to be trifled with. The fact that they're getting away with this is not okay, but I would not buy their content. Watch my videos and understand how bad this truly is. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe. I want to keep making these videos. I'd love to make Assassin's Creed videos, and I want to put my opinion out there on why I feel this was just such an utter letdown. If you felt the same, put it in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram. You can hit us up there as well. Link will be in the description. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.